So before we begin, let me announce that we have a full board. We do have one member participating telephonically. Member Gallo, are you on the line with us at this point?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm here.
Thank you. And I also wanted to mention before we begin the meeting and get into our recognitions that if you're calling in, we welcome your calls. If you're trying to reach us by email or by text or any other method, we would ask that you send those messages before or after our meeting. If you send them during the meeting, that's fine, but school board members have made a commitment to give 100% of our attention to the public that's here, for those of you that are calling in, and the business at hand. So we won't be checking our emails, but we will get back to you as soon as we are finished. Before we begin our meeting, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I'm going to invite you to join me in just a minute for those. But before I do, this week is certainly a week that goes down in history as one of our saddest recognitions, as we recognize that more than 500,000 Americans have perished due to the pandemic in the past year. That's more than we lost in World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam War combined. On this solemn occasion, we are called on by our president to reflect on the loss of those individuals and on their loved ones who are left behind. It's hard for me to imagine how many people are grieving the loss of loved ones when I think about 500,000 Americans that have died many times alone with their family members not being with them, who have died and have not had the closing that comes from a traditional ceremony, a funeral ceremony that I know we all dread going to those, but I think we all come away from them with a sense of closure and peace. Here in Orange County, we have lost 1,074 people just in Orange County. So as tragic as this is, I think that we have to look at the loss collectively the same way as individuals, most of us deal with loss. Most of us, when we find a tragedy that has affected our lives or our loved ones, we try to find a way to change the future, knowing that we cannot change the past. So what can we do to change the future? Well, we're doing this. We're wearing masks. No, a lot of debate about masks. I don't think it's a political statement. I think it's a statement of looking out for one another and doing the best we can under the circumstances. The other thing that we can do, we're doing every day right here in Orange County Public Schools. If it weren't for highly educated researchers, scientists, innovators, people who are not only developing vaccines, people who are developing the tools and the resources to distribute those vaccines, all of these individuals collectively are helping us get to the other side of this pandemic. And all of them have education as the cornerstone of their lives. So when we think about what we can do, I think this is also a moment to recognize our teachers and all of our employees, our support staff that support our students day in and day out, our bus drivers that drive our students to and from school. If it weren't for public education, education would only be for those who could afford it. And we would be leaving probably more than half of our citizens behind. And we as a nation would not survive that. So it is through public education, it's through those bus drivers that take those kids to school when they wouldn't otherwise have transportation. It's food and nutrition services employees that make sure that they have a good meal. It's our social services, it's our social workers, it's our psychologists. It's our janitors that come to, and I'm sure that's not the politically correct term, but the people that make our school safe and clean, which we probably never appreciated more than we do today. All of them are critical to being able to defeat not this pandemic today, but pandemics going forward, and everything that will ever threaten us, we can only solve through education and in educating our youth. So I just think this is a moment for us to mourn those who have lost, but it is also a moment for us to recognize how extremely important public education is to our future. If you all would join me in a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I mentioned that we have a lot that we are celebrating tonight. I hope that you started out by enjoying the artwork that we had a chance to display. This artwork was produced specifically for Black History Month, and most importantly, it was produced entirely by the students of Orange County Public Schools. And I'm telling you, the little bit that we had an opportunity to see, every time I see what our students are doing, I am blown away. From arts and culture to science to coding to everything that they do. It's just remarkable. I'm hoping that we have an opportunity, Scott, to figure out how to show this on our website. That reel that you have is just, and the music. Anyway, it was very, very important to me to take that moment of reflection. Before we get started with the business of the meeting, I'd like to take the opportunity to highlight a few employees who received state and national recognitions. Jennifer Buck, Brenda Christopher Mensch, and Kimberly Fry. And we're also going to recognize a special community member, Rich Maladecki. Let me begin with Jennifer Buck. Jennifer is a resource teacher. Where are you, Jennifer? Why don't you stand up for a minute? Jennifer is a resource teacher at Aloma Elementary School and received the 2020 Florida Literacy Association Literacy Teacher of the Year Award. This award is given to an individual who has made significant contributions in the teaching of reading and literacy and actively serves in their local reading council. Ms. Buck began her career with the district in 2010 and has served for 11 years at Aloma Elementary. Daily, she guides students to educational success by creating a respectful and safe environment that promotes learning and literacy. She's a graduate of the University of Central Florida, yay, where she earned her bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Please join me again in recognizing and appreciating Ms. Buck. Next, we're going to recognize Brenda Christopher Mensch. Ms. Mensch. Ms. Mensch is the 2020 recipient of the Shape Florida Dawn Knit Service Award. The award recognizes organized members who make significant contributions to the organization's mission to enhance knowledge, improve professional practice, and increase support for high-quality health and physical education, nutrition programs, and physical activity. The Western Illinois University alumna serves as the district's K-12 health and physical education resource teacher and principal investigator. Ms. Christopher Mensch has worked for Orange County Public Schools for 33 years, working 20 of those years in various roles in her current department. She is known for her passionate care and concern for our community and is intentional about making everyone feel appreciated and supported. Join me again in recognizing Ms. Mensch. Next, I'd like to recognize Kimberly Fry. Ms. Fry, are you here with us? Ms. Fry is the Director of Transportation Services, and she received the School Bus Fleet Magazine's 2020 Administrator of the Year. Nominated by her department's leadership team, the award honors an exemplary school transportation director for contributions made to pupil transportation on the local, state, and national levels. She's been employed with the district since April 2017 and has served in her current position since then. Among her colleagues, she is known for her care of the students we transport, as well as the well-being of drivers and monitors, especially in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. Again, join me in recognizing Ms. Fry. as we honor all of these staff members that are present tonight, I want to thank you for your commitment to the vision, mission, and objectives of Orange County Public Schools. On behalf of the school board, I promise you, we will be watching you carefully to continue to see the wonderful things and the difference you make in the lives of our students every day. God bless. And now I have the opportunity to recognize a member of our community that this board has come to know and love deeply, and that is Mr. Maladecki. Since 2000, in fact, why don't you stand up, Mr. Maladecki, in case there's anybody in the audience who doesn't know who you are. Mr. Maladecki, since 2004, has led several initiatives that positively impacted Central Florida. In his role as president and chief executive officer of the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association, better known as CFHLA, he invited Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties to participate in the organization's Adopt a School program. Since its 2002 inception, the program has grown to include more than 119 school partnerships that leverage the assets of the hotel industry to support one of our most valuable resources, our children. Under his leadership, our students have benefited from scholarships awarded to students in CTE Fundamental Food Services Skills Program, hygiene supplies provided through the CFHLA CARES program, filling the bus, and through the organization's support of the half-penny sales tax and 1 mil property tax referendum. It is hard to even fathom the impact you have had. He has also hosted the OCPS Business Challenge, created to encourage other local businesses, besides those in the hotel industry, to adopt schools. He served on the OCPS Blue Ribbon Panel's Parental and Community Support Committee and has been a long-standing sponsor and partner of the OCPS State of the Schools Breakfast. After 23 years of service, Mr. Maladecki has earned the right to retire from his role as CEO of CFHLA. He's laughing. We're not happy about it, but you get to retire. I want to just take a moment. I first came to know Mr. Maladecki when I became a commissioner in 2000, or shortly thereafter. And I knew him only as kind of the political go-between between the industry and local government. And it wasn't until he came to talk to me about lending my name to a campaign to raise money for our library system that I realized, well, first of all, I thought it was a little fishy. I mean, why would the CEO of the Hotel and Lodging Association find value in supporting libraries? I just couldn't see the benefit. And then the more we talked about it, I realized it had nothing to do whatsoever with there being a benefit to the industry. It was simply a personal passion of his. It wasn't until I joined this board that I realized what a passion he also had for Orange County Public Schools and our students. And I want to just take a moment to thank him for the personal side of Mr. Maladecki. He's going to have a successor who's going to have heavy lifting to do. And we love him, Mr. Augusto. We know him, we think highly of him. I just hope he has the same passion for Orange County Public Schools. If not, I am counting on you to get a little board soon. And when you do, we're always here and we'll always need your help. Mr. Maladecki, can you come to the mic? Do you have a few words of wisdom you could share with the board?
Wow, this is humbling, and I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. I know most of you on a first-name basis, and it would be wrong of me not to mention some past school board members that I worked with very closely, from Kat Gordon and Daryl Flynn and Joey Cato. You know, I had my knee replaced some 5 years ago at Winter Park Hospital, and I lived down in Dr. Phillips, and I was joking with Joe, hey, I really don't know anyone in Winter Park, and she was the first one to come visit me at the hospital. I think I was still on drugs at the time, but I do remember her coming in to visit me, and she actually was kind enough to visit me twice.
Wow.
Public education is so important to our community, and one of the things CFHLA tried to do over the years is to be a difference maker, and I think we've succeeded, and I hope we can continue to succeed. I thank you for this honor. It's humbling to stand before all of you. Superintendent, I've enjoyed my work with you, and of course, Pam and Kathleen, and I just want to say thank you very much. And I guess the last thing that's so critical is my 3 adult children are all graduates of Orange County Public Schools, Dr. Phillips High School. All three are doing wonderfully well in their careers, ranging in age from 24 to 28, and I attribute that to Orange County Public Schools and the good people at Dr. Phillips High School, as well as Bay Meadows and obviously Southwest Middle School. So thank you for this honor. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a couple of minutes, and very, very appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
So, Rich, don't go anywhere because Vice Chair Gould has a few comments. Vice Chair?
Well, go Panthers. And, Rich, you are my constituent, so thank you for being always an active constituent in the district, not just in your role in CFHLA, but with the Rotary, and just as a citizen who takes it upon himself to make sure people are in the know when there is an issue or when there's something good that happens, which I really appreciate the positive calls that you gave too. You have been the epitome of service. And as the chair said, it's going to be hard to follow in your footsteps. It's not so much just the job, but it is your dedication to this community well beyond your job, through your work in the Rotary, through your work with your kids at the school, through your advocacy for individual people who needed help, that you would connect with me. I just can't thank you enough. I know some of those things will continue because you are you. And so I look forward to continuing to hear from you, and I wish you well and much, much enjoyment to both of you as you enter this next chapter in your lives.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let me recognize now Member Cobert.
Thank you, Chair. The public cannot underestimate the contribution that you have made to this community, especially through our public schools. You have touched the lives of thousands and thousands of students during the tenure of your leadership through the scholarship programs, Adopt a School, the career opportunities, especially here in the greater Orlando area, the career opportunities that your organization has spurred through your leadership are countless. And the dollars contributed through those programs and through your support of our half-penny sales tax, Orange County Public Schools would not be the same without you. And I can recall a time where I had a school that was really in some need. Called your association and you matched them up with a hotel just in no time. And it made all the difference to that one Title I school. So your contribution to this community is immeasurable, and the public really needs to know, and you need to know how grateful we are for your service. Thank you, Rich.
Thanks, Member Cobert. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was speaking with Rich earlier, and I just have to tell you, I have to say it publicly because I also like having witnesses. But he actually said before we could ask him, he actually said, I am looking for opportunities to volunteer a few hours a week. You just let me know where you have need, and I am there. And that is just so typical of the heart of this great man, because it's really not a part of his job description to be worried about schools and supplies and Adopt a School and scholarships for children who might not have opportunities otherwise. It doesn't come with his job description. That is his heart and his passion. It speaks to the character and the nature of the man that you are looking at. And I just want to publicly thank him for all of the years and for the years to come that he has already agreed to volunteer. Blessings to you, my friend. Godspeed.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. One last comment. When I think about what the future at CFHLA will be like in terms of our relationship, one thing I will say is I think that you have had an impact on an awful lot of hoteliers, folks that reach out to me that I bet if you hadn't taken these causes on, it wouldn't be on their radar screen. So I think that legacy will live on. But I agree with the superintendent. I think volunteering, I think continuing to stay engaged with us on major initiatives, we would welcome that. I only wish personally I had known this side of you years ago. It might have changed a few of our conversations. Yeah, it would have, it would have smoothed over some rough bumps along the way. But hey, we're here, right? And we're here to celebrate you. God bless you. Thank you. And one more round of applause for Mr. Maladecki. All right, before we move on to our proclamations, I also want to call on Member Felder. Member Felder has a special presentation. She has invited some friends of all of ours, but some individuals who are making a tremendous difference in the community to celebrate Black History Month. Member Felder.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Good evening, and I'd like to welcome our guests and elected officials. In celebration of Black History Month, here at Orange County Public School Board, the 8th largest school board in the nation, the 4th largest in the state, we wanted to continue our celebration of Black excellence by recognizing you and your work in the area of public service. When Esther vacillated about whether or not she should go and speak to the king, her uncle Mordecai looked at her and said, "How do you know that you were not born for such a time as this?" You were born for such a time as this. As I call your name, please stand. Representative Travaris McCurdy, District 46. Tiffany Moore Russell, Orange County Clerk of the Courts. City Commissioner Bakari Burns, District 6. That's my commissioner. Mayor Pro Temp Larry Brinson Sr., City of Ocoee. Commissioner George Oliver, City of Ocoee. My former colleague and very good friend, Commissioner Alexander Smith, City of Apopka. If you are here and I didn't call your name, Commissioner Regina Hill or Representative Camilla Brown, because we were having some difficulty trying to make sure they could get here. All right, on behalf of the Orange County School Board and myself, Vicki Lane Felder, Representative of District 5, thank you so much for your service. Thank you for coming. We want you to know that we're right here with you. We support you and we got you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Member Felder. And what an inspiration for all of our students to see the leadership that we have right here in our community, represented by these incredible human beings. Many of them I have the privilege and the joy of knowing, maybe just a little bit. I'm hoping when COVID passes, I get to know each of you just a little bit better. Thank you for your service to our community, though. Above all else, thank you. All right, and you know what? Because we appreciate you so much, if you don't want to, you don't have to stay with us any further. This would be a good time to break. We're going to do a couple of proclamations. You're welcome to stay for that, or you're welcome to excuse yourself now. No, thank you. No, thank you. Seriously. All right, here in Orange County Public Schools, we are issuing a number of proclamations. First proclamation is proclaiming February 25th, 2021 as National Digital Learning Day in Orange County Public Schools. We are proclaiming March 2021 as National Social Work Month here in Orange County Public Schools. And in recognition of that, let me call on Miss Mary Bridges. I'm not sure that mic is on.
Good evening. I'm Mary Bridges, and I'm Executive Director of Student Services. Good evening, Chair Jacobs, Superintendent Jenkins, and school board members. March is National School Social Worker Month. OCPS has 53 itinerant school social workers and 30 social workers that work in our mental health department. Starting in 2019, all 20 of our traditional high schools have had a full-time social worker. Since the start of the pandemic, our school social workers have worked tirelessly to provide direct services to students and families. We have been going into the community to make connections through outreach, such as going to our food distribution sites for carside chats, going to hotels to meet and connect with families, and partnering and conducting trainings for the Coalition for the Homeless. Our mental health social workers have been providing support for our most fragile students with regular check-ins for both face-to-face and launched ed students, as well as providing self-care trainings for students and staff. Our school social workers played a key role in finding and engaging students who were not attending school at the beginning of the school year. Tonight I have a short video celebrating our OCPS school social workers. This video was created by 4 of our social work interns, Victoria Long, Stephanie Munoz, Noelia Halim, and Cynthia Castillo. I hope you will also view a table that we have out in the lobby that is showcasing our team. I would also like to recognize 2 guests this evening. Our Social Worker of the Year, Vanessa Eichmann. Vanessa, stand up. And our Director of Social Services, Lisa Coffey. Please stand up. And now our social workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Bridges. And before we move on, let me ask if Ms. Vanessa Eichmann is with us. Thank you so much. I want to recognize Ms. Eichmann. She was awarded I always struggle with that, School Social Worker of the Year at a Colonial High School. And I wanted to take a moment, since we are recognizing social workers in general, to recognize your enormous contributions and recognize your leadership in that area. Thank you. Never before has there been a year when our school social workers have been more invaluable to us, priceless to us, or has their work been, I think, more difficult and probably more emotionally challenging. Vice Chair?
You echoed the words I was thinking in my head. seeing some of the frontline families coming through the healthcare system outside of the education system. There is so much kind of being lost, depressed, overwhelmed, and our students are really feeling it. You know, they're contending. You know, some things are working really well for some kids, but those that it's not, they're contending with multiple generations in a house, maybe extended family who lost their housing. They're worried about if they're going to have a place to live tomorrow and how long the food is going to last. And it's big issues that normally we as parents kind of burden and try to protect our children from, but there's no protecting them right now because it's everywhere. And we can't thank you enough for the work that you do and being that positive light for them. So thank you.
Absolutely. I wonder in this difficult year who's taking care of our social workers. So take care of yourself. And I noticed a couple other heads nodding. Let me ask you, we have any other social workers here with us this evening? Stand so we can recognize you all. Stand. Pardon me? Oh, well, wonderful. Well, to all of you, I know that's like easy to say, take care of yourself. But try to remember that you can't help anybody else unless you're okay. So, and we like to say around here, it's okay not to be okay once in a while. So, and it's okay to ask for help. All of these things are okay. So we're thinking of you. We're praying for you. And most importantly, we are incredibly grateful to you. Thank you. Now, we are also proclaiming March 2021 as Purchasing Month here in Orange County Public Schools. And I think all of us understand just how important purchasing is to us and the hard work and the great job they do. We're proclaiming March 2021 as the Youth Visual and Performing Arts Month here in Orange County Public Schools. And so when we saw that wonderful artwork, it was done for the purpose of Black History Month, but it also reinforces our commitment to performing arts and to visual arts, and it's reinforcing what a wonderful job our students are doing. We have, Dr. Jenkins, any recognitions of administrators being appointed? No? Okay, so we will now move on to our strategic plan update. And for those of you, mostly our social workers who stayed here with us for our proclamations, you get to go home and take care of yourselves. Unless you're really compelled to stay with us, in which we'd love to have your company. Good night, y'all. Drive safe. Okay, Dr. Jenkins, we have a strategic plan update. I'll call on you to introduce Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an exciting time here in Orange County Public Schools. I was talking to some individual board members as well as staff. We have been so deeply mired in and consumed by all of our COVID-19 issues and safety protocols and having schools open. It's almost difficult to realize that we are at the same time in a planning stage for next year. And so what I'm excited about is with a pandemic come some opportunities for us to look forward. I like this notion of a light at the end of a dark tunnel. And so staff, we challenge staff, and we've been talking for some time around issues of innovation, and you're going to hear some of those ideas in just a few moments. But my peers from across the country have said that we have to resist this notion that we're going to just go back to normal. This stampede back to normal is probably just not going to happen. And there's a good possibility, as we learned when Melanie Stefanowicz and her crew put on the first biomedical student challenge, this will not be the last time that we have to deal with something severe as a pandemic, hopefully not in the near future. But this notion of looking forward instead of being stuck in what we have to do in our day-to-day was particularly attractive to me. So we challenged staff, and the team has worked on some innovation. There are three different areas that I think we can glean from this opportunity based on what the pandemic has done to our lives in public education. I think we can have some flexibility built around how our students are to learn, especially for our high school students. You'll hear some ideas and some plans around flexibility to continue. Secondly, I think we have opportunities for parent choice. I think when we see an end to what the state has now provided for face-to-face and digital learning, that we have to continue some efforts around parent choice. And then thirdly, I believe it's an opportune time for us to work on innovations, that we have opportunities to provide something different to our young people that is not currently available to them. So there's a notion even that we can create. I've talked to the chancellor about this, and he agreed with me. There are opportunities to work around issues and concerns about class size so that we give students opportunities to beam in, to zoom in, and have opportunities to hear a star teacher, for example. If a school has a substitute teacher, has a vacancy for an AP English class or for, God forbid, AP Calculus, then they'd have the opportunity to beam in and have the access to a star teacher in that same subject area. We believe there are just opportunities for us to take advantage of and capitalize on, if you will, some of the digital learning that has become the norm now. And so you're going to hear from 3 different cabinet members talk about some innovative ideas we believe are on the horizon for Orange County Public Schools. Add a little spice to our lives, some excitement, some looking forward to see that light at the end of the tunnel. And I understand they were quite competitive initially. I understand there had to be some culling out of presentations because some wanted to have music and background and video and dancers, live dancers. Nonetheless, we have 3 presenters, and all of their ideas, all of their presentations around choice and flexibility and innovation are quite exciting for Orange County Public Schools, for our families, and certainly for our children. Dr. Boarder, start us off.
Good evening, Chair Jacobs, board members, superintendent. Good evening, Chair Jacobs, board members, Superintendent Jenkins. Thanks for this exciting opportunity to share some innovative testing. Working? Perfect. Good evening, Chair Jacobs, board members, Superintendent Jenkins. Thanks for this exciting opportunity to share some innovative concepts with you this evening. This evening, Associate Superintendents Greg Moody and John Wright will join me to share ideas that we believe will be highly sought after by our schools, students, and parents. When we talk to our high schools about this opportunity to bring flexibility to our students and staff, we were focused on making sure we expanded student choice. We were focusing on our social emotional learning needs for our students, and also making sure we were listening to student voice. Our goal is to ensure we have a sense of belonging for every single one of our students each and every day. So in that vein, next school year, East River, Evans, and Windermere High Schools will offer flexibility in their schedule for their students. East River High School will be operating on a 9-period school day for 9th through 12th graders, of which students will take 7 periods. They will start at the traditional high school time and then have 2 additional periods at the end of when traditional high school time would end. Evans High School is incorporating block scheduling into their schedule for 11th and 12th graders that will also extend beyond the traditional high school time and also allow students to start at a later start time. Windermere High School is going to be operating on a 10-period school day, again for 9th through 12th graders, of which our Wolverines would take 7 periods throughout the day. So we are really excited about this opportunity next year. We have lots of staff and students who are already engaged in the process for next year and looking forward to the opportunity. At this time, I transition to Associate Superintendent for School Choice, Greg Moody.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Thank you for this opportunity to share some of our creative thinking to provide quality programs to our students and to our families. I'd like to share a couple ideas with you today. The first will be the idea of a visual and performing arts conservatory for grades 6 through 12. This would complement our existing magnet schools and programs that are phenomenal. This conservatory approach is a school where the primary focus is on the study of the arts. Grades 6 through 12 would provide an educational continuity for a longer period of time. A greater continuity of staff would exist. And with grades 6 through 12, one of the benefits would be older students coaching and mentoring the younger students. This school will not offer the traditional middle school or high school experience, but I submit that not every student is looking for that traditional experience. This school would allow the freedom to experiment, to safely create, fail, and create again. The school would need to be centrally located near Orlando's arts and cultural corridor. Students would audition and interview for admission. The audition would attract not only the classically trained student, it would also attract the student with the innate ability in music, dance, theater, and visual arts, with no classical training. Maybe it's a student that has a talent and desire and the passion for the arts. The audition would allow a student to perform in his or her own native language, his or her music genre of choice, and possibly the instrument of choice. That could be a triangle or even a percussion instrument made from a bucket. Imagine a school that would tap into and build upon the talents of today's youth. A school that includes pop, hip-hop, opera, jazz, rock, folk, and country. A school that includes ballet, modern and contemporary dance, and even tap. The Visual and Performing Arts Conservatory would have an impact on all schools across the district, grades pre-K through 12. It would be an expectation that students provide service to the community and to the arts. Students would be involved with other schools, pre-K to 12. This could include clinics for interested applicants and spring break and summer classes for students of all ages. The school would provide a unique opportunity for OCPS to expand upon existing relationships with the greater Orlando community, arts community, partners, and with local colleges and universities. Imagine a place where art knows no limit, a school that provides an incubator for creativity in the artistic exploration for all children. And now the second concept I'd like to share is agribusiness. We're exploring the idea of creating a middle and high school agribusiness magnet or alternative school at the Claricona site. The land is zoned for agricultural use. It would include animals you would find at a typical ag program, including cows, chickens, pigs, goats, and horses. The amount of land on the property would lend itself to a larger program. In addition to offering CTE courses associated with the typical ag program, we're exploring classes or experiences with welding, irrigation, landscape, lawn maintenance. We want to provide students with the introductory experience of careers like welding, small engine repair, irrigation, and more. You may recall back in the day the exploratory courses that we may have taken as a junior high student, where every student experiences different fields of work. One of the many goals that we would provide, one of the many goals would be to provide this experience to re-engage the student who may not be engaged in school. We are in the process of reviewing in the process of looking at Claricona site to see exactly what this site would hold. Students would gain entrepreneurial skills as they would create and run a store on site. They would create, market, and sell products from the farm, soap, plants, etc. Students would gain experience working in the storefront and behind the scenes with marketing, accounting, and leadership. Students would gain entrepreneurial experience, skills they can take with them to college or directly to the workforce upon graduating. We are in the early stages of formulating this concept, and we look forward to further conversation on what it may look like for our students. Thank you. I now turn it over to John Wright, Associate Sup for Innovation.
Thank you, Greg. Madam Chair Jacobs, distinguished board members, Superintendent Jenkins. It's a privilege to share with you another innovative school concept. This state-of-the-art, industry-supported school will be structured to inspire future designers, creators, scientists, programmers, engineers, and innovators with an emphasis on and connections to Central Florida's robust modeling and simulation industry. The specialized school will feature an accelerated curriculum with a strong foundational base in mathematics and science. The proposed concept is for the school to open, not next school year, but for the 22-23 school year, with grades 6 through 9 and approximately 400 students, with subsequent grade levels being added each year to culminate with a full capacity school by 25-26 school year, with the capacity to house approximately 1,000 students who are seeking a non-traditional secondary school experience, but who have talent for the arts and interest in this area of STEM education. Some of the foundations and beliefs that we feel will need to anchor this school and are so critical are student choice, autonomy, and student voice, the use of project-based learning connected to real-world experiences to foster that spirit of collaboration and teamwork that our students, desperately need leaving our schools. The idea of diversity and inclusion and using acceleration and enrichment and innovation and design to really help give the students what we hope they'll be able to get from this school experience. Speaking of design, the slide in front of you is actually the creation of one of our high school students. McKenna Mondul is a senior at East River High School, and she's interning with the Innovation Office, and she's part of the digital and graphic design, the wonderful program currently at East River. So she did a concept brochure for us to help promote this concept and this idea. Some of the key concepts that will be important along the lines of acceleration and flexibility for students, using the 18-credit college preparatory diploma option so that students can use that to accelerate. The use of virtual classes, flex scheduling for students to also kind of help shape their own educational journey, so that by the junior and senior year of our traditional schools, the students will have completed their high school credits, or most of the students will. So then at that point, the pathways could include internships with our industry partners, or could include a dual graduation with an AA or an AS degree with one of our university partners. We've also talked about the role of research and a capstone project that all students, either individually or in teams, would complete, looking at the idea that grade level is not as important, as students will be going on their own journey and their own pathway. And so having students group more in clusters, interest area clusters, family type groups, and emphasizing that. The role artificial intelligence plays in modeling and simulation, but also the reverse of that as well. Our research shows Mandarin Chinese is an important language in this industry, so that would probably be the base language offered at the school. However, again, student choice, flexibility through virtual options, students could really choose whatever language they'd like. And then along the lines of not just having the university partnership with that option for the dual graduation, looking with our CTE partners, and they've already been a tremendous help advising this work, but looking at micro-credentials and industry certifications as well. So far, some of the efforts we've been putting together to pull this concept together, we have been working across OCPS divisions and teams. I already mentioned CT, Melanie Stefanowitz and her group have been key advisors to this work, and we've been doing quite a bit of research around modeling and simulation. Members of our internal advisory group that we're still forming, as this is something we're exploring, we've made visits to Florida Polytech, have a commitment from them to at least support this work. We visited our own Orange Technical College campuses, Winter Park Tech campus. Dr. Jadanath is so wise in this area. We visited Neo City over in Osceola. We've met with Dr. Jacobs and Dr. Gardner from the University of Florida. And Dr. Gardner is a renowned expert on artificial intelligence, and they've said that they'll help however they can. And then Hank Okrasky, I want to recognize Hank. Hank's a retired U.S. Navy senior executive service member. He also is the author of The Wonderful World of Simulation. He's been like we adopted Hank as our project advisor, and he's been very helpful to us as we've formulated this concept. And then we're also sharing the concept with key stakeholder groups such as this board. Immediate next steps, once we receive final approval for the concept, finalizing that internal advisory board and then seeking industry partners, university partners who will serve on our external advisory board, and then developing the curriculum and those pathways, and then coming up with the final site plan. And then beyond that, the next steps will be similar to those of a traditional school. Naming the school, naming the school, the hiring the staff and such, to culminate with the class of 2026 dinos, as McKenna came up with, to walk across that stage, receive their diploma. Hopefully most will receive a dual diploma, their micro-credentials, their industry certifications, so that they will be prepared to go into the world, not just as problem solvers, but problem finders, and they'll have broad pathways, for their next steps. With that, I turn it back to the superintendent for comments and the school board for any questions from any member of our group.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, and certainly thanks to Dr. Border and who else presented?
Moody.
And Dr. Moody. I'm sorry.
Dr. Moody?
So there really was a sense of competition. I make light of it, but I will tell you, these three gentlemen and our entire team have just had some brilliant ideas that really get us excited about what can happen in the future. So when you consider the conservatory, in case there's some concern over a cost, we're actually looking at the Cherokee school site. And we actually have our foundation actually starting to scratch their head just in initial thoughts around potentially having naming rights for that lovely building that will need some investment in order for it to become the FAME type school or the conservatory. When it comes to modeling and simulation, we think it'll be an outstanding draw to both gifted and talented students and certain students that are in our ESE programs that show some giftedness in cybersecurity type professions. And Dr. Wright has done some research in that area as well, so we're pleased about that. And then when it comes to the agribusiness, Bobby Beagle will be so pleased to hear that we're even considering agribusiness because it is the second largest, he always reminds us, the second largest industry for the state of Florida. And so significant business opportunities exist for our children. Melanie Stefanovich talked about supply chain. All of the logistics around running an agribusiness are significant opportunities for entrepreneurial efforts by our students. So the possibilities are just unending and quite exciting for the future of Orange County Public Schools and for the future of our students. Thanks to these three gentlemen for their presentation. We're happy to entertain any questions you might have, and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. We have a lot of comments. I'm not sure if they're questions. So let's begin with Member Byrd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Wow. I knew this was coming, but still, I had no idea all the details. This is so exciting. I cannot even express how excited I am by all of these concepts that were presented to us. First, I want to thank our superintendent for being the type of leader that is thinking like this and encouraging outside the box thinking and allowing us to explore all these options, because if it weren't for her openness to this, we wouldn't even have these concepts in front of us. So I'm so thrilled for that. I love innovation. Innovation is my favorite word, my favorite education word. It always has been since I was a beginning teacher. I always was looking for ways to innovate in my classroom, and I just think that that when we innovate, when we allow neat concepts to come to fruition, that's when real learning happens. And just like Dr. Border said, we really want our kids to feel connected. And I think what is most important about all of these concepts is that they allow our students to really connect to something real. You know, it's not just reading about something in a textbook and having to study it and memorize it and learn it for a test. This is real world stuff that matters. And when kids know that, and when kids know why they're learning, we all know this as educators, that's how they learn. They learn better. So this is what education should look like. This is exciting. I'm thrilled. You guys did a great job coming up with these concepts. I love it. I want to challenge us to keep thinking of things like this. I love the idea of listening to students' voices. High school office offering these scheduling options. I think that's a fantastic idea for our kids. I think that we have so many talented teachers that do so many amazing things in their classrooms. I think sometimes they just need the permission to be allowed to think outside the box a little bit, to do some of these real world things. And I will tell you just a little story. My daughter was feeling a little down this week, and I said, "What's going on?" She's like, "School's just not the same this year." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "We're at the computer a lot, and there's just not a lot of projects, not a lot of hands-on." She's getting I think she was getting a little bored. So I think that allowing the kids to just explore all these options and get their hands dirty and learn this way is just phenomenal. And it's going to re-engage a lot of kids that maybe are not engaged now. So I'm thrilled. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Byrd. Vice Chair Gold.
Choice is not the right word anymore. I mean, choice is a tired word. This is beyond choice. This is opportunity. This is excitement. This is lifelong learners. This is magnificent. And yes, the whole soundtrack of Fame was playing in my head when that was being presented. Almost started humming it. I do have a few questions, and I'll start with Dr. Border. No questions for you. I think that's magnificent. Love the pilot. Can't wait to see the outcomes of that. But want to see it expand across all high schools. Obviously, once we've proved out what works, what doesn't. Mr. Moody, I do have a couple questions for you. On the partnerships and certifications, we have some very, very strong partnerships that I think can expand, not compete with Dr. Phillips Performing Arts. There is plenty of talent and ways to channel that talent throughout our community. I think this will actually enhance the friendly competitions and opportunities. But will these students be able to get their credentialing towards equity and SAG and AFTRA and all of those unions that are very important to work professionally? Will we have partnerships with Universal, Disney, SeaWorld, DPAC, all the United Arts organizations? How will we engage those professional organizations to really help drive those pathway opportunities, for our students? And even the convention business, because that's a huge business that opens up real money before they become the stars on Broadway or television or in the movies. So those are my questions in that arena.
All right, great questions. Thank you. So part of the concept will be to formulate an advisory committee, an advisory board, as we continue to formulate this concept, this idea. And part of them, members of that board would include everyone that some of the people that you mentioned, some of those agencies and partners, and both in the field and out of the field of performing arts. And so I think one of the first would be to, after we get the nod to move forward, would be to generate that, to develop that advisory board to make sure all that is in place. Because you're right, that is important to the kids and the families that want to pursue that career. Absolutely.
Yep. And quite frankly, when we were looking at models across the country to build this conservatory a few years ago, that was one of the things. They got those certification, they got their points towards those professional careers. And whether they, end up going on to college or right into the profession or into another profession, that does not hurt because it builds that credibility. And certainly if you put any kind of certifications, I think, on your resume, it lifts your resume above everybody else's, no matter what you decide to pursue. So that was it for that one. I just want to make sure we're going to get those professional certifications so they're ready, they're work ready if that's what they choose to do, or they go on to Juilliard if that's what they choose to do. On the modeling and simulation, again, love the path you're going down. So glad we are engaging Polytech. We have University of Florida, or UCF, University of Florida, and certainly Valencia, that whole matriculation. Polytech's building a very big name in the research, especially in AI and in autonomous vehicles and all that. So that's going to be a tremendous opportunity. Hank is an oracle. I was one of the charter members of the National Center for Simulation, and Hank was our chair, and he recruited me actually on that board. But he's not only an oracle for that whole field, because he's part of the fatherhood of that field, but he is also a connector. And that same model that we're looking at for the conservatory would be very possible in that, because they are looking for that same matriculation. And they don't all have to go on to higher ed. So those certifications are very important. In fact, some of those innovative companies almost don't want them to go on. They want them to come right into the workforce if they have the skill base and real applied science skill base. So that's cool. So could you talk a little bit more about the vision for that and that option and pathway, not just to higher ed?
Yes, ma'am. That's what we wanted to have set up for this school, the pathways, so a student could choose, with the accelerated model, to work really their junior, senior year with one of the industry partners through an internship, preferably and hopefully a paid internship. And that would be one pathway, and leave with micro-credentials, industry certifications, and that experience with one of our partners who's hopefully anxious to then present them with a contract for an immediate job, a career right here in the industry, a high wage career, you know, as a immediate starting point. Other students may want that option of using those last couple of years of the pathway to really, let me get that AS degree from one of the university partners or whoever it's going to be as their pathway. Or a student might say, I want to do a little of both, you know, and so not setting it in stone and really letting the students' goals, their desires, their talents kind of drive that decision. I've had the pleasure of working with Hank. He was instrumental in the Hungerford, getting the aviation studio established there. He's such a wonderful gentleman, and he is one of the early pioneers and gurus. And so he has been, you know, talking to us about connections and synergy that we could have, you know, and the fact that modeling and simulation it's part of all career paths, whether you're going into healthcare, medical, defense, aerospace, even education.
Gaming.
You know, the future, I mean, we've got to celebrate our own. And so I would hope a component of the school is what can we do in the area of artificial intelligence, in the area of modeling simulation to make us better as educators. So Hank's been great. One of our immediate next steps is to start reaching out to potential industry partners, the Orlando Expressway, Lockheed, the corridor out by UCF. Certainly UCF we want to engage in as well. And so really getting that external advisory together, along with folks from Melanie's team that are our internal people that have a great deal of knowledge in this world as well. You know, I'm very low tech, and so I need someone like Hank and a board of advisors. So I think that's going to be key to getting the school off the ground successfully. The reason we looked at 6 through 9 is we do need time for the acceleration. So if students, if we started, say, 6 through 11, really we wouldn't have time to accelerate the students like we envisioned to create these pathways and these opportunities. We were originally looking at 7 for the concept, but then the problem with 7 through 12 is you have that extra school gap that traditionally students in our district go through 5th, then they would be at some other school for 6th, and then they'd come to this school at 7th. So we see that as a good entry point. And then also with Orlando Gifted Academy, which is a school, you know, we do support with the Innovation Office. The 8th graders next year will be moving on to 9th grade. And so perhaps not for all, but for some who want a non-traditional, because some of those parents have expressed that desire as well, this could be a pathway into the opening 9th grade class to help build the base of this school as well.
Great. The last thing that I would suggest is that the local chambers and the partnership are important for all 3 of these efforts because they all translate to some businesses, but especially in the agri-science one. You know, Orlando finally is kind of known as a little bit of a foodie place, and we have a lot of micro farms as well as macro farms that are surrounding us that are very high tech. Also in the medical field because we are growing things that are used for medicine. And so there's some real opportunity there. And I think the chambers and the Central Florida Partnership could be really key in helping to accelerate these programs. So thank you. Congratulations. Great thoughts.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Let's hear from Dr. Castrodano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is awesome. I appreciate the superintendent's direction to look for other avenues for our students, and I appreciate the variety. I mean, we're not just looking at different schools, but we're looking at different models of schedules even, and I think I agree with Member Gould saying that the word choice is a little tired. It doesn't really capture quality when you're looking at choices. You could be choosing between some average things. I don't think these, what we're putting forward, are just another choice. These are unique opportunities for our students with a promising future direction, and I appreciate that.
And I like that these seem to be in response to some of the discussions that we've had, whether it's the schedule with the 9 and 10 period days. That allows students who want to start during the 3rd period, they can. Students who want to start first thing in the morning because they need to go to work, they can. It addresses some of that school start time issues that we've been dealing with, and it makes it easy. I think it makes it more flexible for some teachers as well. And then block scheduling is not a new idea. It's but it's fully researched. We have models of it. We know how to make it work, and when it's done right, it is a very enriching way to learn. You can learn in depth with uninterrupted times, and you can do different kinds of projects and teaching in that span of time, and I appreciate that we're looking into that as well. The Arts Conservatory is a fascinating idea. I know we in Orange County, we promote that we value arts for all. And then this is just going to the next level and creating a place to truly develop that talent and passion and to really stand out. And we have such a rich arts community. I think this will help develop that in our region. I think it's a responsible partnership for our community. Let's see, what else? The modeling and simulation magnet or school, I don't know what you're going to call it, but I appreciate that not only is it looking at a different topic or a different area of study, but that the environment will be different for our older kids, high school kids, because when you get into high school, you're looking at 3,000 kids, and that environment does not work for everybody. And it sounds like we're going to be creating a different learning environment where it's going to be much a smaller environment. And I think that we have a lot of students that need that kind of environment and that change. And I think we lose a lot of students to private schools because they can offer that smaller, quieter setting. So I think that a different setting and the different scheduling, I think you've addressed so many different areas that we can really, I'm in full support. I love these ideas, and I like that. I'm glad that I have full faith that we have the talent within our faculty and staff to pull all this off, and also the partnerships within our community. So thank you. I look forward to learning more and seeing how they all develop.
Thank you, Member Castrodental. Member Coburn.
Thank you, Chair. First, gentlemen and Superintendent, I just want to say bravo. It's all I could do not to jump out of my seat up here and maintain some decorum and professionalism, because that's the level of excitement I have over these ideas. I've been texting people today saying, tune in tonight. Tonight's the night you want to tune in, because as Dr. Jenkins mentioned, over the past year, you all have been mired in crisis management and the enormous undertaking of keeping our students and our employees and faculty safe so that they can be in school and learn. But then on the other hand, you're working on these tremendously innovative and creative ideas, and out of that crisis, using what you've learned to see what other good that we can do for students. So I'm so proud of you. On the high school flexibility, the first thing parents are going to be asking me is, after you learn from these 3 pilot programs, what is your timeline on expanding to our other 17 high schools? That's question number 1. Number 2, on the conservatory, I'm giddy. I'm absolutely giddy, especially at the prospect of using Cherokee School. Beautiful school in downtown. I mean, you could walk to the DPAC from there if you wanted to. A few years ago, and I believe Member Gould and I were together as we were exploring some options like this and looked at Booker T. Washington School for the Performing Arts in Dallas. And I have to tell you, it looks just like Cherokee, so it might have been an omen. But one of the things I liked about that school, and I was a skeptic because I thought, are we going to have an entire school dedicated to, you know, musicians and dancers? I just couldn't see. I'm always asking my children, and how will you earn your income? You know, but as we talked to students there at that high school, and I said, how will you earn your income? What are your plans for the future? And one says, well, ma'am, because in Texas they call you ma'am. Well, ma'am, I would like to study entertainment law. And I thought, okay. The next one, well, ma'am, I'm going to go into theater production and finance with my background, you know, as a musician, but this is how I will earn my income. And I thought, brilliant. So again, bravo on just thinking outside the box and coming up with these programs that will offer so much to our students. And just if I can be of service, Dr. Wright, I have a great suggestion for you for an advisor, and then also for the conservatory, I have a great suggestion for you as an advisor. Any way I can be of service, I am just in full support. So, and question on the timeline also, and I know it's probably a proposed timeline, but on that conservatory school, on both of the innovative creative magnet schools and on the high school, rolling that out to the other 17 schools. Those would be my questions. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Ms. Cobert. We believe that this year the pilot at the 3 high schools will fuel the appetite from our students and parents for the other 19 next year high schools for the following year is the hope and idea. And I really think that that's what's going to happen. I think it'll be fueled by our students and parents. And the majority of our administrators and schools are already there. Just wanted to start small, successfully, and kind of work out some of the opportunities that will come up throughout the year, and then be ready to go for all 22 the following year.
Madam Chair, what I neglected to add is that in those instances, we actually had to have the faculty come together and be in agreement for the actual flexing of their work hours in order to accommodate those changes, and very pleased that all 3 of those schools were able to gain that support as we informed the union as well. And then for the other 2 schools, we're looking at 22 next year. From now and into next year is the planning and development, and depending on whether or not we find someone really interested in those naming rights for the conservatory, that would take some additional facilities work as well if it was going to be invested in. And I also neglected to mention John, Dr. Wright's modeling and simulation. We're actually proposing or looking at investigating the actual Winter Park Orange Technical College site. As it migrates out further east, that actual campus might be our possibility for our modeling and simulation magnet.
That answer your questions? Thank you. Let's move on to Member Gallo. Member Gallo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that all my questions have been answered by my fellow board members, but I do want to thank Dr. Jenkins and the staff. This is just, everybody's overstated how wonderful these programs are, and I'm just so excited to be a part of a district that continually thinks outside the box. We talk a lot about meeting students where they are and keeping students and parents engaged. These type of programs is what keeps our children in schools. It enriches their lives, it enriches their family lives, and it truly meets not only our students, but our educators where they are. It is truly offering choice. And I agree that choice is kind of an outdated word, that this is more innovation, but it's just so refreshing to see all the great work that we're doing in Orange County. And I just wanted to thank the staff and Dr. Jenkins and her cabinet for all the great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Gallo. Let's go to Member Felder. Member Felder, you're recognized.
I am so very excited about what I heard tonight. I often tell people that I'm an unemployed actress because I love theater. And I purposely, whenever I do an introduction, I'll always talk about Orange County School Board, 8th largest in the nation, 4th largest in the state. I say that because I'm so very, very proud of this district. And I couldn't think of the word giddy, but I was about to run around this platform, honey, when I was looking at the ideas in this whole term of conservatory. It just puts it on a whole nother level. And you'll be surprised the people that we have in this city. And I'm sure you're looking at faculty and so forth, consultants. But my concern also, Member Gould, was AFTRA, Actors Equity. And because you have to be able to give them what all of this work, there needs to be an end result. There needs to be a substance from the hope that they're having. And we're in the business of charting destinies. That's what we're in the business of doing. And I often tell my students at the beginning of every school year, don't allow your circumstances to dictate your destiny. What we are getting ready to do in this great county is just remarkable. My only concern, well, I have several, but this one concern, that as we, as faculty members and teachers and administration get involved, because when you're very creative, sometimes the bureaucracy of administration gets in the way. I think you know what I'm talking about. An artist, that's very frustrating to a true artist. And whether you're a performing artist or you're doing the innovative things with computers, we have to find a unique way to maintain the order but not aggravate the opportunity to create. And that's been a frustration a lot in the area of artists, and it's also frustration to my computer people who are innovative in what they do with designing robots and all that sort of stuff. And I want to say something about the agribusiness. When I was running, I went to see some people in charge of the farming and so forth. I didn't know that throughout the year, Florida is the state. We give the vegetables, the fruits to everybody in the country. And I was like, how do we do that? They said, well, it's snowing everywhere else, Well, Houston got snow now, but I'm just saying. So to have that agribusiness, that just touched my heart, because if you ride down I-4 on your way to Tampa, begin to look at those signs, those billboard signs that seems to be real innovative and creative. That kid was a student at Edgewater some 4 years ago. He was their ESC student. He could not ever pass the FASA because it's very difficult for him. So we had to put him on, how the diploma and so forth. But that kid, he did that. He did that. Many of my students, Dr. Phillips, in the acting program, I was teaching the history of acting. Many of my students, they struggled with trying to memorize, but they're now in New York, they're now in California, because I put their lines on tape, so they listened. My point is, I am so glad that we are the type of district that we believe that every student can learn. May not be the same way that we offer opportunities. This right here, let me tell you something. I guarantee you, we may be the 8th largest, but people are going to follow this. This is going to be a template. I'm telling you. It is going to be a template for places across this country. And I'm so excited at Orange County that we are doing this. And I'm hoping that parents will grab hold to this as we get through this pandemic and get through all of these other things. But they grab hold of this and this thing, the flexible scheduling, Everybody don't like to wake up early in the morning. I love that. You know, the fact that you can work that out. So again, my concern is that as we do what we need to do to maintain order and the correctness of things, that the faculty and administration don't become so bogged down with the bureaucracy of how you run a school, how you run a department, because we don't want to stagnate or we don't want to crush the creativity. So, Dr. Jenkins, Dr. Border, God, I just looked at you, right? And yeah, and Moody, Mr. Moody. Listen, thank you so very much for doing what you have done and to let us see what we can become very quickly. I'm so excited, and I know there are children waiting with bated breath, honey, ready to move on to this. So thank you for this time. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Member Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I love this initiative. I think that is very versatile and flexible. And we are in 2021, so we're very current with these new ideas. And I know that is going to help a lot of students. I just have a questions about which requirements the students will need to participate in this program, because I think was Dr. Border talking about ESC having this opportunity as well in this type of programs. But I'm also thinking about students that are struggling in some areas, let's say math, but they're experts in music, for example, or they love to design. So I'm just having questions about, for example, testing, that we are so tired about testing. I need more information about that. And also English language learners. I saw that we will be focused on languages as well. So imagine a student that is very fluent in Creole, but he's struggling in English. And sometimes the reading class do not allow them to be successful in other, not successful, but do not allow them to take other classes that they are interested, just because they have to take reading and English classes at the same time. So I have a lot of questions about that.
Thanks, Ms. Lopez, for the question. So as far as exceptional student education and English language learners, those services will still be provided throughout the school day. It will be determined based upon staff as far as what time of day those services are offered. So students may, athletics, they may have to make a choice as far as, what they want to participate in or which opportunities they want to take. Transportation, for instance, as we start the pilot, that will, be something that we don't have countywide right now. And so it will be available, the services, for the parents during the school day and the students during the school day. They'll have to decide and maybe weigh out, their preference as far as what they want to take and when they want to take it, depending on what the faculty wants to do. We have a lot of faculty interest in the expanded schedules at the high schools. But for example, if we had Mandarin being offered at one of our high schools and there's one Mandarin teacher, if that Mandarin teacher wants to remain on the traditional schedule, then we wouldn't be able to offer Mandarin 8th and 9th and 10th period.
So is that based on zone as well? So if we have full, let's say the Mandarin teacher have a lot of students in X school in certain area, how is gonna work?
So we are able to pay teachers an additional period supplement, and many of our teachers do teach that additional period, so that is something that we could have. It would be a discussion, I believe, with labor relations and the union as far as if we wanted to expand beyond one additional period. But currently teachers are able to teach one additional period if the student, need is there and are able to be supplemented accordingly.
And through the magic of digital learning, we can hopefully zoom in and beam in additional students as well during the teacher's regular
Oh,
schedule.
that's great. So are we going to have flexibility in terms of GPA as well?
GPA.
For example, sometimes the general, the grades that the student have sometimes are not that good, and sometimes the options and the programs are based. You have to be 3.0 or better instead of providing flexibility to every student, because
So-
sometimes, and during the pandemic, we have a lot of students struggling with the grades as well.
So, Ms. Lopez, I can assure you too that grades are a discussion that is on the front of our agenda every week when we meet with the high school principals. But I will answer your question and say that there won't be any criteria as far as gatekeeping, as far as wanting to take the different scheduling option. If you want to start third period and go through ninth period, that you'll be able to do that. There won't be prerequisites or gatekeepers that prevent you from doing that.
Okay.
John.
Okay. Thank you.
We should just pass the microphone.
As for the modeling and simulation concept, two of the anchor beliefs are inclusion and diversity. And so, as we envision it, it will be open to all students who have the interest in modeling, simulation, a talent perhaps for drawing. Also, though, research shows students with dyslexia, students with autism often do very well in the area of design, and modeling and simulation might be an appeal. So I do think part of our job is going to be really to educate, because we want students that will have the capability to accelerate. But just because I don't want, my hope is we don't have some kind of process where you must have such and such GPA, you must have such and such test score. I think, say if a student is a little behind in math is going to be key, because in modeling and simulation, you need a strong math foundation. But I do think we could have scaffolds and supports to help that student, and maybe they accelerate at a different rate. But the other area too is gender, and looking at many times, even when we look in our STEM classrooms and stuff, you see 15 boys and maybe 2 girls. And so that's going to be something too that we have to be mindful of. And then as far as, I love world languages, and when I was principal, we were able to offer Mandarin, Arabic, and many different languages. So I think students who come in already with another language, that's just an asset that would help make the school stronger.
Thank you. Thank you all.
So,
I'm sorry, there was one more answer.
That's true.
Thank you for your question, Ms. Lopez, Member Lopez. So as far as the conservatory and the agribusiness, the short answer is no, there would not be any GPA requirement. In fact, I don't know much about arts. I would be a starving actor if I were an actor. But I do believe, and I'm very passionate about equity and access for all students. I'm interested in the student that's sitting in the back of the room, who's quiet, maybe doesn't know the language, doesn't know the English language enough to feel comfortable to speak. I want to attract that student. I want to attract the student that is struggling in school, but has the ability to go home and create masterpieces of art, of music. That's a student, in addition, that we want to make sure that we capture. So no, there would be no GPA requirement for the 2 programs.
Thank you.
And for that last question, Member Lopez, we are looking into, because we know there would be some disadvantage for the flexible scheduling in high school, we're looking at providing bus passes and hopeful that there'll be expansion of some of the routes as well around our schools, but we have some creative thoughts on that as well.
I love that idea with the bus passes, because we have a lot of low-income students as well and homeless. Thank you so much. Great program. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Vice Chair Gould.
So originally, this was not why I was going to get on here, but I have something before what I was originally going to say. So we have a lot of women in STEAM, which I think it's time to change it from STEM to STEAM now, because we are really talking about how all these efforts intersect. But there's some tremendous leaders in our community that have brought up businesses to be multi-million-dollar to leadership in that modeling and simulation. So getting some of those women leaders to sit, next to Hank. In the same, even in the performing arts, you need both. It's still kind of a heavy male-dominated leadership industry, believe it or not, in the movies and theater. And we need those young ladies to see themselves not only as performers or maybe in a secondary role, but to see themselves as directors and producers and running theaters and movie houses and all those things. My thing was, so this is great. I love it. Keep going. And then the next thing is my 612 energy autonomous vehicle medical on the west side of town. Okay, I just had to throw that out there. Thank you.
All right. I want to follow up on a couple of comments made by board members, but I do want to circle back to the expanded school day, and you just touched on it, the issue of transportation. So that's, I guess, I love it, but I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to offer a later starting time to all of our students because if we're not providing busing at that later starter time. What's that plan?
No, we agree with you, Chair, and appreciate your question. Our hope is by a successful pilot. That is something as a district that, maybe we're able to take on in the future. We are certainly working with students right now at the schools who are interested to look at the resources available, bus passes and other alternatives for them to get to school. When you talk about a school like Evans High School, there are a lot of students who walk to school. And so we are looking at other avenues for them to get to school. The hope is, again, that with success, this appetite will be fueled and, it may result in us as a district needing to look at what our transportation routes internally are and what we can make available for our students.
And I think it's important too, Chair, to note the flexibility is to accommodate all students. So those who still need to be there early because they have jobs right after school would be accommodated as well. Those who need to come later in the day because they have a job or an apprenticeship, we are really actually hopeful to have more apprenticeships. And they may work the first 3 hours of the day and then take their classes. We want that flexibility on both ends of the spectrum. But many of our students will still need to come early so that they can go to work after those hours. If we had an extensive transit system that cities like New York and Boston are able to have that flexibility, I'm hopeful that in the future we will have an extensive transit system far beyond what Lynx is able to provide now. But for most of our schools, we do have bus routes that go close to the vicinity of the school. We think we can accommodate it and want the bus passes to be free of charge for our students.
All right, Dr. Jenkins, thank you. I want to reiterate, I hate to feel like the downer here, but pilots are wonderful, but if we are going to offer our students equity, if I'm a parent who believes strongly that my child on whatever the east side of town or the west side of town is not thriving by having to be up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning to catch an early bus to get to school, and there's a pilot going on someplace else, and I don't have that option for my student, that's not equity. So I agree with the pilot, but I do think if it's successful, we have to be able to roll it out. And I guess what we're going to learn from this is what is that demand for starting at the beginning of the day versus starting at the later, and can we make that work with our bus schedule? I hear you saying that, and because two priorities of this board, one was give us the option of letting our high school students not have to start so early. This is perfect. I mean, you have friggin' nailed it in terms of what we wanted. We wanted our students to have options. And other priority of this board is always equity. So if we can bring these both together and make that happen, I'm gonna be like over the moon, proud and excited. But this little nervous part of me is still waiting to see how all that comes together. Dr. Jenkins?
So that nervousness is probably not a bad thing, because I mentioned briefly for the 3 schools, we had some additional interest. Your entire faculty has to vote. The majority of the faculty has to vote for that kind of swing, because some teachers will be coming earlier and some later. And so individual schools, we have to make that sales pitch that this is good for children and it's good for some of our employees as well who need those flexible hours, but it will become a collective bargaining issue in some instances. So not quite as simple as that, but we are still hopeful that because we're going to see such outstanding outcomes, that teachers will be agreeable with it, as well as our union, and make selections that best suit their needs as well.
I agree with your comment, Dr. Jenkins, that it may come down to collective bargaining, but our students come first, their welfare comes first, and that's what collective bargaining is for. So I don't think any of us are intimidated about going through that process. We're not the ones who have to sit at the table. But I guess what I want is a commitment that as we start this pilot, that students who don't have parents who can drive them to school but want to start later are not going to be denied that opportunity. Can we offer that?
That is our intention in the pilot, Madam Chair.
Okay, good. Thank you. A suggestion for possible people to serve on the advisory group. And Vice Chair mentioned women. Thank you very much. That triggered a perfect person, Bev Say. And so I'll give you some information on her a little later, just an incredibly impressive background. The other, I don't know that I heard talked about, was the National Center for Simulation. Tom Baptiste runs that. If they're not included in this, I think definitely in some way, shape, or form, their input would be extremely valuable to us. I wanted to comment on a comment that Member Felder made, and she made so many comments. I could comment for a long time about her comments, but let me summarize it with this. You said that you are so glad that this district, is doing this. And after I listened to you talk about your experience as a teacher, your experience at Dr. Phillips, after I heard you talking about the need to maintain order without stifling creativity, all the things that you threw in that very short period of time, I sat here and I thought to myself, when you said you're so glad, I thought, I am so glad that you ran for office. I really am. Yeah. And I think if I made a motion to who agrees with me, it would be unanimous on this board. You bring so much value to this board, so thank you. Dr. Moody, your comment, you don't need to respond. Your comment about you're focused on the kid at the back of the room is exactly in tune with where this board is. I think I can say that for all of us. All of us are concerned about the kid in the back of the room. Actually, all of us are concerned about the kid who didn't show up to school at all. And I remember Dr. McHale, I attended an event, a Leadership Orange event, and he spoke, and he talked about going out to the student's house that wasn't showing up. And the kid started showing up after he went out, and the kid graduated, and he came back and he said, I graduated because you cared enough to come out and ask me. Nobody ever asked me to go to school. He didn't feel that pressure anyplace else. He didn't feel that anybody else was concerned about it. And so it's the kid who's in the back of the room. It's the kid who's not in the room. We care about all kids, but our heart goes out to, we've got to do everything we can to get our kids excited and engaged. And that's why those questions that came up about GPA, spot on, Member Lopez, for asking that, because I've heard it over and over, programs, CTE programs that kids can't get into. I understand the reason why. I understand that we want our kids to be able to get all the credits that they need to graduate. But I also believe that sometimes if we can put our kids on a course that they're excited about and tell them in order to do this, you're going to also have to get these other credits along the way, or you're not going to have it. Kind of like playing sports. You can play sports, but you got to keep your grades up. But don't say you got to be an A student to play sports. You got to start with draw our kids in by getting them excited about something. And along with that, explain to them why they need to know some things. And even if they don't need to know that, if the state says you have to have it to graduate, why you have to graduate in order to pursue this field. Give them a meaning and a reason and a why behind what they do. And I think so many more of our kids will succeed. So anyway, everything you all said, all your answers to every question, I'm excited about the programs. I'm excited about how in sync this board is and how in sync the superintendent is and her leadership. I tell people all the time, if you are worried about anything, don't worry about us because we're unified. We have one mission here. And so many people that I talk to around the country are like, in other school boards, they're like, wow, we don't have that. Vendors that I talk to that do business all over, they go, we don't have that. Some people that watch our meetings, they're like, yeah, sometimes we disagree, and we're supposed to, but we are unified. And so, Dr. Jenkins, I want to take this moment to commend you, your leadership team. They have blown me away since my first day here. The quality of this team, but also the heart. So with that, I think I'm the last person speaking on this, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Touche to everyone. And can't wait to hear back from you all. I'm very excited you're looking at Winter Park, and I'd like to make sure we keep Winter Park plugged in. Winter Park City Council. The vice mayor over there is really excited about this possibility. So let's circle back, John, and if you'll touch base with them. Okay, great. Yes, Member Felder.
In some of our, I guess, some suggestions that board members were making for the board to work with you all, I want to talk about, I just make a suggestion. I can talk to you about it later too. Her name is Dr. Portia K. Malsby. She developed ethnomuseology at Indiana State University in Bloomington, Indiana. She's here. I think she's kind of retired or whatever. And she went to a conservatory. She understands that whole makeup. She's a composer, got all kind of bronze awards for composing music for documentaries, and she's right here in Orlando. She lives in my district. But I'd like to give you her name to assist with that. She's SAG after all of that. And she's right here in the city. And so I think she'd be a valuable asset to what you all are trying to do when you get your board together to kind of look at some things. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Felder. All right, we are going to move on, Dr. Jenkins, to the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, Dr.
Madam Chair, we have two changes to the agenda, 2 items being withdrawn. Item 801, that's request approval of the Mater Academy Apopka performance-based agreement to be brought back at the next meeting. Item 1505, request approval to nominate and approve primary and alternate school board members and citizens to serve on the 2020 Value Adjustment Board is also being withdrawn. We'll have some discussion of that at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. I agree with Dr. Jenkins' recommendations for changing the agenda. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Member Colbert. Is there a second?
Second.
By Member Byrd. This is a motion to amend the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And Member Gallo, since we can't hear you or aren't sure, can you indicate your vote on this?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion to amend is unanimously approved. Therefore, we need a motion to adopt the amended agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Member Lopez. Do I have a second? Member Castrodeno. Again, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Member Gallo? Thank you. I heard you that time. That was a unanimous vote for amending the agenda. Now, with regard to the agenda, we are on item 3.01, public hearing for the approval of English language arts, K-5 textbooks, instructions, resources, and materials. Let me ask before I call on you, Dr. Jenkins, do we have any speakers? Any public comments?
We do not. None on the phone and none in person.
I ask because rather than reading a long statement about public comment, I'll dispense with that. Dr. Jenkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, this is your first of 2 public hearings required statutorily for your adoption of our ELA K-5 textbook materials. We had a total of 29 individuals on the committee, the majority of them teachers, including ELL and ESE representatives. They have worked over the past several months to bring forward this recommendation. As required by statute, you have to have public input on this meeting, and on the next meeting you will offer public input once more before approving it on the consent agenda.
All right, thank you, Dr. Jenkins. Let me poll board members. Any board members? Member Gallo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question. Will these new textbooks be to the new standards that will be adopted?
Yes,
That
that is
have been
correct.
adopted, I guess.
That is correct.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments from board members? We're not taking action on this. This is the first public hearing. This will come back for a second public hearing. But this is the opportunity for board members to provide any input or ask any questions. Seeing none, we're going to move on then to approval of the consent agenda. And is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda? Motion by Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Cobert. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Member Gallo. We're getting good at this. That was a unanimous vote. I likewise vote in the affirmative. And we will move on to the superintendent's report. And Dr. Jenkins, in your report, can you cover the issue of the Value Adjustment Board?
I will.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all for coming. All right, I apologize. Dr. Jenkins, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So let me start with the Value Adjustment Board so I don't forget it at the end of my comments. If you will recall, each year we have to have both a board member and an alternate to represent you on the Value Adjustment Board. It has to do with property values, and when there are disputes, we have representation because property values impact our budget. And so we have both a community member and an alternate, and a board member and an alternate. And so what we did, we discussed it previously and asked for volunteers, and I believe you've just been so busy that nobody actually had an opportunity to express their willingness to serve in the position and in the alternate position. And so next time that we meet, we would love for it to be on the consent agenda, but really we'll need to have someone volunteer to be our representative and our alternate, and we need a second community member. Our previous community member has agreed to serve, to continue to serve, but we do need an alternate. Give me his name again. Jim Daniels has agreed to serve again. We will need another, and that certainly doesn't need to be said here at the dais. We need that provided to us later so we can have it on the consent agenda next time around. But by the time I finish my comments, hopefully someone will have considered that volunteer spot. Number 2, so excited that we heard the governor say that he is now going to expand through the FEMA sites some vaccinations for law enforcement and for teachers over 50. We're going to get that information out as soon as it is available. Have not seen anything to provide just yet. We hope that the Valencia site, which is the FEMA site provided by the federal government, will be open next week, and we will quickly get that information out to our employees. We were hopeful that it would include all school employees. He has said repeatedly in his announcement that it was classroom teachers. We will seek clarification and get that information out. We are certainly pleased that we have at least some movement on that end, and appreciated hearing that announcement today. Secondly, want to announce the long-awaited determination regarding our graduations. Now, I want to stress that all of our plans are tentative because we continue to consult with FDOH. The state could have some issues in the future, or the county could have some issues in the future. But as of right now, I talked to Dr. Pino, in fact, recently, today, and right now things look fairly positive. So we are quite encouraged that we can have all of our graduations in person with social distancing and with face masks at Amway Arena. Previously, we were trying to split our schools schedule-wise between Amway and the University of Central Florida's arena. We are now having all of them scheduled at Amway. That's where the capacity is, and that's where we have permission and agreement at this point. All of those dates have been booked with Amway. If something happens with the playoffs, we have a backup plan for any high schools that might be impacted. Alex Martins is a good friend of mine, so I will not make a comment about the playoffs on record here, but we are very hopeful. We are very hopeful that we'll be able to host our graduations at Amway. And then we have backup plans. Also, our principals at the high school level, at Dr. Border's great leadership, are actually working with their senior class to determine their own plans around an alternative to an activity instead of the old prom concept that we've had in place for so many years. They are working on their own creative alternatives to prom, and there's particular plans around their drive-through, senior drive-through, which used to be the senior walkout. They are working on those plans as well. And as you've heard previously, grad bashes were canceled. So we're very pleased. Board members, those dates will be provided for you to place on your calendars, and principals are going to be getting the official information out to their families by this Friday. Very pleased about that. Thanks to those who have worked with us at Amway Arena and to the team who has tirelessly been working on it as well. Thirdly, want to mention, you may have heard that the state is still insisting on face-to-face testing for FSA. We understand that we cannot force any launch ed parent to come in for testing, but there will be no testing provided for a home version of testing provided by the state. What we're going to do is survey our launch ed parents to see if some might be willing to come in for Saturday dates that can be offered. That will let us know what we actually need to prepare for. As an option for those who are on launch ed at home, we'll be gathering that information and that feedback. But I want to repeat, while it is encouraged, we cannot force any parent to bring their child in for testing. What we're most hopeful of, and hopefully the state will agree with us, that this is an opportunity for diagnostics to determine what we can work on over the summer and next year for students that may be struggling. That diagnostic information of where our children are would be helpful for every student, but we do not believe it should be used for punitive measures and for placing labels on schools and on students and on teachers. We've made those preferences and those comments aware to our chancellor as well. And then lastly, if they'll cue up some pictures in the back, we had a very exciting day on Friday at our Mid-Florida Tech Orange Technical College campus. Want to again commend our CTE team in its entirety for putting on our very first, it's called a biomedical student challenge. And I will tell you, I alluded to this earlier, I will tell you, I am convinced that we have not faced our last of challenges. We have not faced our last challenges such as a pandemic, but I'm also convinced that we've got such bright young individuals who were in that room that are going to help come up with solutions. So let me give you just a few tidbits. It's just one more way that we join in sharing the responsibility to safeguard our community by immersing students in innovative curriculum that addresses real-world issues. So in partnership with Nemours Children's Health System, Orange County Government, Orlando Health, and Project Lead the Way, this was the first of its kind challenge seeking to transform students into public health officials, working to provide solutions to our current global crisis. Students also gained experience using transferable problem solving and critical thinking skills, and then they had judges who, I remember Melanie, as she went through some of their credentials, said she had problems pronouncing and understanding what some of their backgrounds were. But medical and technology experts serving as judges as these students went through their problem solving. It provided our students with significant opportunities to grow in STEM-related fields, such as biomedical science. Across our district, thousands of middle and high school students are engaged in Project Lead the Way. These teams came together to compete. By exposing them to one of the fastest growing sectors in Central Florida, we are creating opportunities by which they will learn about rewarding careers and providing local businesses with a better trained workforce. The results are shining examples of the community coming together to support student learning. Now, I suppose you're wondering who won the challenge. Let me start with third place was Olympia High School. Second place was Windermere High School. First place, Ocoee High School. Congratulations to our brilliant students, and thanks to all of our team and Melanie Stefanowicz, who spearheaded this event. And if you notice on pictures, I did beam in remotely, but Mayor Deming also spoke to them briefly. He was actually the keynote speaker for the start of that project, and Orange County government actually helped sponsor it as well. So excited for our young people. Pleased that we have such brilliance among us that can take care of us in the years going forward. Madam Chair, members of the board, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. If I can just clarify one thing, I think you're going to try to follow up with the state regarding eligibility. And I think our request, the board's request, was only for frontline employees that are in daily contact with the students. It wouldn't be teachers teaching from home. It wouldn't be administrators in this building. So if you can just reinforce that idea that bus drivers who are in contact with kids all day long, taking them, because they have 3 shifts in the morning, 3 in the afternoon.
Absolutely.
That maybe they'll see fit to narrow it down to those who are in direct contact with students throughout the day. The list goes on. I just picked bus drivers, but I think anybody who has extended contact with a large number of students throughout the day should be eligible. And that does, though, narrow it down. That's not everybody who works in Orange County Public Schools. That would exclude this board. But we should wait in line with the rest of the public.
We will absolutely make that concern
Thank you.
known. We've said all along repeatedly, school-based employees were our greatest concern. Their teacher assistants, their secretaries, principals and assistant principals as well. Those who are in the school setting, cafeteria workers as well, teacher assistants. When I heard him say 50 and maybe drop it down to 50, my guess is perhaps his advisors are telling him to go by age bands rather than actual responsibilities, but we will make that call again and express our concern.
Thank you. Ms. Enval, for your report.
I do. I need to announce an executive session for next Tuesday. Pursuant to Section 286.011, subsection 8 Florida statutes, and in accordance with Board Policy BEC, an entity may meet in private with its attorney to discuss pending litigation to which the entity is presently a party before a court or administrative agency, provided certain conditions are met, including the requirement that a transcript of the executive session will be made part of the public record upon conclusion of the litigation. In this case, I'm requesting the school board's advice concerning 2 cases. The first one is Victoria Laney versus Orange County School Board in case number 2020-CA-1945-0. And in the second case, Orange County School Board versus Bureau of Exceptional Education and Student Services, Florida Department of Education, and SP, a minor, by and through her parents, JP and BP, individually and as parents and next friends of SP, in DOA case number 20-005400. This executive session will occur on Thursday, February 25th, 2021 at 1:00 p.m. The executive session will be in a closed meeting held in Conference Room E at the ELC and will take approximately 2 hours. A notice has been drafted for posting. Those attending for case number 2020-CA-1945-0 will be Teresa Jacobs, Chair, Pam Gould, Vice Chair, Angie Gallo, School Board Member, Johanna Lopez, School Board Member, Linda Cobert, School Board Member, Vicki Elaine Felder, School Board Member, Karen Castor-Dental, School Board Member, Melissa Bird, School Board Member, Dr. Barbara Jenkins, Superintendent, Amy Enval, General Counsel, Philip Mooring, Esquire, and a court reporter. And those attending for DOA case number 20-005400 will be Teresa Jacobs, Chair, Pam Gould, Vice Chair, Angie Gallo, School Board Member, Johanna Lopez, School Board Member, Linda Cobert, School Board Member, Vicki Elaine Felder, School Board Member, Karen Castor-Dental, School Board Member, Melissa Bird, School Board Member, Dr. Barbara Jenkins, Superintendent, Amy Enval, the General Counsel, John Palmerini, Associate General Counsel, Sarah Corin, the Staff Attorney, and a court reporter. And that is all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enval. Let's go to committee reports. We have a report from Member Castrodental on behalf of the FSBA appointment. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just want to remind the board that next Friday, March 5th, is the FSBA legislative or Day in the Legislature virtual event. And they will be going over the budget and the legislative or the bills that we need to be concerned about. And there are some significant ones that are going through without any changes or amendments, and they're moving quickly. And you can go to the FSBA website and look up under the legislative advocacy. There's a bill tracker, and you can keep track of these. If I can just add also my experience with the VAB. I've been on the VAB for the last 2 years. I cannot make it to this next meeting in June, but it's a very important board, but low commitment. You only have to go to like 3 meetings throughout the year, and when we're in person, they're held at the Orange County Admin Building, and they've been virtual this year, and they don't last very long. And there's a staff that takes care of all of the details, so it's really not a significant amount of time that you would be committed to. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Castrodental. Well, on that note, this would be the time when we would love to have a volunteer express interest in serving on the VAB. I will say that I was contacted by, I think, FADS. Was it FADS? A number of different entities asking if I would serve on the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council as a school board member. And so I have, which requires significantly more time. I've got a lot of experience. I've been on that board I was served on that board for many years and served as chair. So I know what I'm walking into. If picked for that position, I just want to throw out there, it would take a lot more time than VAB. So do I have anybody who will volunteer for VAB?
If I may, Madam Chair, one of the requirements is that you're attending the June 21st, 2021 meeting kickoff. So depending on who is available, if you're planning on any vacations or to be out, that is an in-person quorum requirement.
Well, I kind of hate the fact that I think our policy says that it's my place to appoint people. So you think new kid on the block? Dr. Jenkins is pointing.
We will help you. We will help you. It's not much.
Yeah. It's easy. It really is easy. Let me tell you, they meet during lunch, okay? I think they still do. They meet during lunch, and for the very reason that it's a bracketed.
In person, right?
Huh? Yeah. It's a bracketed amount of time, and it's usually on Tuesdays when the board of the county commissioners meet, and one of the board members is on it. So it really is a defined amount of time. It's not an extended.
10 o'clock.
No, ma'am. Would we do that to you? You had enough years of having to be up at something before 10 o'clock. We would not do that. No, it's like 12 or 1 o'clock, I want to say. Yeah, okay, right? 3 times a year. All right. We got a volunteer. Dragged her.
We need an alternate.
And we need an alternate. And Member Castrodental will serve as alternate. Thank you.
What's the name of this that you all just volunteered?
Yeah, the Value Adjustment Board.
And we do need an alternate citizen member. So
I know.
maybe
Guys,
if anybody wants
give
to.
it some thought.
Yep.
Do we have any trash can here?
Let me also ask Dr. Jenkins if maybe Dylan Thomas could give some consideration to Leadership Orange people. So many of them ask what can they do. I think they have different specialties and backgrounds, but I think that could be a go-to place, right? Yeah, great, thanks. Oh, I got a good idea, yes. That feels good to end on. Let's end on that note. Anything else from board members? All right. Wonderful meeting. Thank you all. And Dr. Jenkins, thank you and your team again for the excellent job you're doing on leading us into an innovative environment for our students. All right, meeting adjourned. It is 6:58, actually 6:57. This meeting is adjourned.